My name is Max and I work as a mechanic at a large auto service center in Chicago. My wife Miranda worked at a marketing company downtown. We had been married for 8 years and I thought I knew her like the back of my hand. But it turns out, people can hide secrets even from their closest ones. It all started when I installed a new dashcam in Miranda's car. It was a model with GPS tracking and cloud storage functionality. I explained the basic features to her, but didn't mention the remote access capability. I simply didn't think it would be important. The first few months everything was normal. Miranda drove to work, went shopping, visited friends. I didn't even think to check the dashcam recordings. Why would I? I trusted my wife completely. But then strange things started happening. Miranda began staying late at work more often than usual. She said they had a big project, deadlines, lots of work. I understood, business is business. I just thought she was having a hard time, and tried to support her as much as I could. One Thursday evening when I was already going to bed, Miranda texted, "Stuck in huge traffic on I-94. Won't be home until after midnight. Don't wait up for me." I looked at the clock, it was 10 p.m. Traffic at that time does happen, especially when there are accidents or construction work. I replied, "Okay honey. Drive carefully." But something bothered me. Maybe instinct, maybe just a coincidence. I remembered the features of our dashcam and decided to check where the car was now. I launched the app on my phone and connected to the system. And then I saw something that turned my life upside down. The screen showed a parking lot near an upscale hotel downtown. The car had been parked there for over an hour. I took a screenshot from the dashcam. It clearly showed our car's license plate and the surrounding area. My heart started beating faster. I copied the GPS coordinates and sent Miranda a message that changed everything. "Strange traffic tonight. Here's a screenshot from our dashcam." And attached the photo with coordinates: 41.8781 degrees north, 87.6298 degrees west. There was no response for 20 minutes. Then came a short, "Can we talk tomorrow?" But I wasn't going to wait until tomorrow. I was already dressed and ready to drive to that hotel. However, at the last moment I stopped. Why make a scene? I already understood everything. Instead, I sat down at the computer and started planning my actions. The first thing I did was copy all the data from the dashcam for the past 3 months. It turned out that the hotel at coordinates 41.8781 degrees north, 87.6298 degrees west wasn't the only place where my wife was stuck in traffic. There was also a parking lot near a restaurant on North Michigan Avenue, where our car was parked every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. for the past 2 months. There was a private house in the suburb of Evanston, where the car regularly appeared on weekends when Miranda was supposedly shopping with girlfriends. I created a detailed map of all locations and times of stay. It looked like a real investigation, but I wasn't a detective, just a deceived husband using technology. The next morning Miranda tried to explain herself. She talked about work, stress, that she needed to drive around and think, so she stopped by the hotel. She didn't even mention the other places, obviously didn't know I had tracked everything. I didn't expose her right away. Instead I said, "I understand. Everyone needs time for themselves sometimes." But actually I continued gathering information. I found out that the man she was meeting was Jason Clark, an architect from her marketing company. They had a project together. I even found his social media profile. Now I needed to decide what to do next. Just go to a lawyer? Make a scene? No, I wanted to do something that would show her the consequences of her actions. But first, let me tell you about the weeks that followed. Those were the hardest weeks of my life. Knowing the truth but pretending everything was normal was like living in a parallel reality. Miranda would come home with stories about difficult clients and demanding deadlines, while I knew exactly where she had really been. I started paying attention to details I had previously ignored. How she would shower immediately after coming home, claiming she felt dusty from the office. How she started keeping her phone face down and taking it with her to the bathroom. How she suddenly became interested in new perfumes and started working out more regularly. But the worst part wasn't the lies, it was the way she looked me in the eyes while telling them. The casual way she would kiss me goodbye in the morning, knowing she would be with another man that afternoon. The way she would ask about my day while hiding her own betrayal. I continued monitoring the dashcam data religiously. The pattern became clear. Tuesdays and Thursdays were for the restaurant meetings, weekends alternated between the hotel and the house in Evanston. It was so systematic, so planned, that it felt like a business schedule. During this time, I also started researching Jason Clark more thoroughly. He was 34, divorced, had no kids. His LinkedIn showed he had been working at Miranda's company for about 6 months, which aligned perfectly with when her overtime had started. His social media showed expensive tastes, fancy restaurants, designer clothes, luxury cars. Everything Miranda had started showing interest in recently. I also discovered that Jason lived in that house in Evanston. So those weekend shopping trips were actually domestic visits. Miranda was playing house with another man while coming home to me with bags from department stores she had never visited. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. Miranda announced she had to work the entire weekend on a crucial presentation. She packed an overnight bag and said she would be staying at her colleague Sarah's house to focus without distractions. I knew Sarah. We had been to barbecues at her place. So I called Sarah's husband Mike under the pretense of planning a surprise for Miranda. Mike casually mentioned that Sarah was out of town visiting her mother that weekend. That's when I realized the extent of the deception. Miranda wasn't just cheating, she was living a double life so complex that she had backup stories for her backup stories. I spent that weekend creating what I came to call the Miranda Files. It wasn't just a collection of GPS data anymore. I had created a comprehensive timeline spanning 4 months, complete with photographs from the dashcam, cell tower data showing her phone's location, credit card statements showing purchases at places she claimed never to have visited, and even social media analysis showing when she was active online versus when she claimed to be in important meetings. The restaurant visits weren't random either. I discovered they always happened on days when Jason's company credit card showed charges at the same location. The hotel visits coincided with his business trips. He would book a room and she would join him there. The house visits were clearly personal time, often lasting entire afternoons. But the most damning evidence came from her own behavior patterns. I noticed that every time she came home from these encounters, she would immediately start doing specific things. She would reorganize something in the house, clean obsessively, or start an argument over something trivial. It was as if she needed to create distance or distraction to manage her guilt. I also started recording our conversations, not to use against her, but to document the lies. The casual way she would fabricate entire days of activities. The details she would put into stories about colleagues and clients that I later verified didn't exist. The confidence with which she would look me in the eye and describe meetings that were actually romantic dinners. By this point, I realized I was dealing with someone who had become a professional liar. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a mistake. It was a calculated, ongoing deception that had become her second nature. The final piece of evidence came when I decided to verify her work schedule. I called her office pretending to be a delivery service and asked about her availability. The receptionist cheerfully told me that Miranda typically left early on Tuesdays and Thursdays and often took long lunches. She also mentioned that Miranda had been taking a lot of personal days lately. So not only was she cheating, but she was also lying to her employer and using company time for her affair. The systematic nature of it all was staggering. I created a detailed report with maps, timestamps, photographs from the dashcam, and financial evidence. I formatted it like a professional presentation titled, Vehicle Movement Analysis Report January through March 2025. But I also prepared something else. I had been documenting not just her movements, but also Jason's patterns. I knew where he lived, where he worked, his daily routines, his professional relationships. I had enough information to cause significant problems for both of them. Then I printed the report and left it on the kitchen table with a short note. Miranda, our dashcam turned out to be a very useful device. It not only protects against accidents but also helps track interesting routes. Divorce papers are next to it. I'm moving to my brother's place. Leave the car keys in the mailbox. And indeed, the lawyer's papers were lying right there. When Miranda found this, she called me immediately. She cried, begged for forgiveness, said it meant nothing. But it was already too late. Trust disappeared not because she deceived me, but because she had been doing it for so long and so methodically. But the story doesn't end there. You see, I had also prepared what I called Phase 2 of my response. The most interesting thing happened a week later. Jason Clark lost his job. It turned out their company prohibited romantic relationships between employees, especially when one of them was married. Someone had anonymously sent management a detailed report about their meetings with GPS coordinates and timestamps. Miranda also lost her job due to violation of corporate ethics. She also faced questions about her timesheet fraud. All those early departures and long lunches were documented and reported to HR. But that wasn't all. I had also sent copies of the evidence to Jason's professional licensing board. Architects, it turns out, have strict ethical standards, and adultery with a client's spouse can affect their professional standing. Jason faced a formal review that would remain on his permanent record. I also discovered that Jason had been telling Miranda he was divorced, but he was actually separated and still legally married. His wife was quite interested to receive a detailed report about his activities, especially since they were in the middle of custody negotiations for their 2 children. Miranda tried to contact me multiple times over the following weeks. She alternated between anger and desperation. First, she accused me of being controlling and psychotic. Then she begged me to take her back, promising it would never happen again. When that didn't work, she tried threatening me, claiming I had violated her privacy by tracking her movements. But everything I had done was completely legal. The car was jointly owned, the dashcam was installed with her knowledge, and the GPS tracking was a standard feature she had agreed to when I explained the system to her. The divorce proceedings were swift and decisive. With documented proof of her infidelity and fraudulent behavior, there was little room for negotiation. I got the house, the car, and most of our joint assets. Miranda was left with her personal belongings and a damaged reputation in her professional field. The irony was that the technology one had installed for her safety became the instrument of justice. The dashcam continues to transmit data to the cloud, but now I use it in the service vehicle at the auto center for truly useful purposes. As for Miranda and Jason, they tried to start a new life together, but without jobs and with reputations ruined in their industry, they had to move to another city. The last I heard, they were still looking for stable employment. Jason's custody battle didn't go well either. Documented evidence of his affair significantly affected the court's decision about his character and fitness as a parent. The most satisfying part was learning that their relationship didn't survive the pressure. When you build a relationship on deception and betrayal, it tends to collapse when faced with real-world consequences. They broke up within 6 months, each blaming the other for their professional and personal disasters. Miranda eventually found work in a different field, but at a significantly lower salary. She had to move back in with her parents and start over at 32. Jason moved to a different state to escape the professional consequences but struggled to rebuild his career. Meanwhile, my life improved dramatically. Without the constant stress of living with a liar, I found myself sleeping better, eating better, and genuinely enjoying life again. I got promoted at work and started dating again, this time with a much better understanding of red flags and the importance of trust. The auto service center where I work actually used my experience as a case study for their security systems. We now offer dashcam installation with GPS tracking as a premium service, and business has never been better. I also learned something important about myself during this process. I discovered I have a talent for investigation and analysis. Several people who heard my story asked me to help them with similar situations. I'm now considering a career change to private investigation. Turns out there's good money in helping people uncover the truth. The most valuable lesson I learned is that technology is neutral, it's how you use it that matters. The same GPS system that helped Miranda coordinate her affair also provided the evidence needed to expose it. The same cloud storage that was meant to protect against accidents became the archive of her deception. Karma has a strange way of coming back around, especially in the digital age. Sometimes justice doesn't come in the form of grand revenge, but in the form of a simple screenshot with GPS coordinates. Looking back, I realized that the signs were always there. The late nights, the sudden interest in new hobbies, the way she started caring more about her appearance, the secretive phone calls. But I was too trusting, too comfortable in my assumption that our marriage was solid. The saddest part is that if she had just been honest about being unhappy, we could have worked on our problems or ended things amicably. Instead, she chose deception, and that choice cost her everything: her marriage, her job, her reputation, and ultimately her relationship with Jason. As I write this story, it's been 2 years since the divorce was finalized. I'm engaged to a wonderful woman named Lisa who works as a nurse at the local hospital. She's honest, straightforward, and we have an open communication policy about everything. I even showed her the Miranda files before we got serious. I wanted her to understand what I had been through and why trust is so important to me. Lisa was impressed by how methodically I had documented everything, but also concerned about my ability to trust again. We went to couples counseling before getting engaged, just to make sure we were building our relationship on a solid foundation. Our therapist, Dr. Sarah Chin, helped us establish healthy boundaries and communication patterns that were completely different from what I had experienced with Miranda. The first few months with Lisa were challenging for me. I found myself automatically checking timestamps on her messages, noting discrepancies in her schedule, and unconsciously looking for signs of deception that weren't there. Lisa was incredibly patient during this period. She would voluntarily share her location, introduce me to all her friends and colleagues, and maintain complete transparency about her activities. One evening, about 6 months into our relationship, Lisa sat me down and said something that changed my perspective entirely. "Max, I understand why you need to verify everything, but I also need you to understand that I'm not Miranda. I chose to be with you and I choose to be honest with you every single day. But I can't live under surveillance forever. At some point, you're going to have to decide to trust me, not because you've verified everything, but because I've shown you who I am." That conversation led us to establish what we call our trust milestones. We agreed on gradual steps where I would rely more on faith and less on verification. It wasn't easy, but Lisa's consistency over time proved that not everyone operates with hidden agendas. The dashcam is still in my car and Lisa knows how to access it remotely. We joke that it's our trust but verify system. But the truth is, when you're with someone who has nothing to hide, transparency isn't threatening, it's reassuring. Lisa has actually used the dashcam feature herself when she was running late and wanted to show me she was genuinely stuck in traffic, a gesture that was both sweet and slightly ironic given my history. Our relationship has also been strengthened by shared experiences of overcoming betrayal. Lisa was previously married to someone who had gambling addiction and hid significant debts from her. She understood the feeling of discovering that someone you trusted completely was living a double life. This common ground helped us support each other through our respective healing processes. We've developed rituals that reinforce our commitment to honesty. Every Sunday we have what we call our Clear the Air conversation, where we discuss anything that might be bothering us, any concerns we have, or any situations that might have triggered old insecurities. It sounds clinical, but it's actually become one of my favorite parts of the week. There's something deeply comforting about knowing that nothing is being left unsaid or unaddressed. Lisa has also helped me understand that my experience with Miranda, while traumatic, gave me valuable skills that not everyone possesses. My ability to analyze patterns, document evidence, and think strategically has proven useful in many aspects of life beyond catching cheating spouses. She encouraged me to channel these skills more constructively. I occasionally wonder what would have happened if I hadn't discovered Miranda's affair. Would she have eventually left me for Jason? Would she have continued the double life indefinitely? Would I have spent years wondering why our marriage felt off without ever knowing why? These questions used to torment me, but Lisa helped me realize that dwelling on alternate histories was preventing me from fully embracing my present reality. In a way, that dashcam saved me from years of potential misery. It gave me the power to reclaim my life and my self-respect. It turned me from a victim into someone who took control of his situation. But more importantly, it freed me to find someone who actually deserved my trust and love. The technology that revealed Miranda's betrayal also became the foundation for my new life. I'm now debt-free, own my home outright, have a growing business, and am in a healthy relationship built on mutual respect and honesty. I've also started a small side business helping other people who suspect infidelity. It's not something I advertise widely, but word of mouth has brought me several clients who needed the same kind of methodical investigation that helped me uncover the truth about Miranda. My investigation services have helped expose 3 other cheating spouses and 2 cases of financial fraud within marriages. Each case reinforced my belief that technology, when used ethically and legally, can be a powerful tool for uncovering truth and protecting innocent people from ongoing deception. One case particularly stood out: a woman whose husband claimed to be working overtime but was actually gambling away their savings at a casino 2 hours away. The GPS tracking revealed a pattern of deception that had been going on for over a year. Another case involved a man whose wife claimed to be caring for her sick mother but was actually running up credit card debt, shopping, and dating other men. In each situation, the betrayed spouse was able to make informed decisions about their future instead of continuing to live in a web of lies. Sometimes people ask me if I regret the way I handled the situation. Should I have confronted Miranda directly instead of gathering evidence? Should I have tried couples counseling before going straight to divorce? These questions used to bother me, but I've gained perspective over time. My answer is always the same: Miranda made her choice when she decided to start that affair. She made it again every time she lied to my face. She made it every time she used our joint resources to facilitate her deception. By the time I discovered what was happening, our marriage was already over. I just didn't know it yet. The systematic nature of her deception showed that this wasn't a moment of weakness or a mistake that could be fixed with counseling. It was a fundamental betrayal of everything our marriage was supposed to represent. The evidence I gathered didn't destroy our marriage. It simply documented a destruction that had already taken place. The GPS coordinates and timestamps didn't create the betrayal, they just made it impossible to deny. Without that evidence, Miranda would have continued to lie, gaslight me, and potentially drag out the deception for months or years longer. And honestly, I'm grateful for that clarity. There's something to be said for having absolute proof instead of suspicions and doubt. It allowed me to move forward without second-guessing myself or wondering, what if? I didn't have to live with the uncertainty of whether I had made the right decision or whether I had given up on our marriage too quickly. The most important thing I learned is that trust isn't just about believing in someone's good intentions. It's about their actions consistently matching their words. Miranda could say she loved me all she wanted, but her GPS location told a different story. Love without honesty is meaningless. Trust without transparency is impossible. I learned that a relationship built on deception will eventually collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. Lisa has taught me that real love makes transparency easy, not difficult. When someone genuinely cares about you, they want to share their life with you, not hide parts of it from you. The effort Miranda put into concealing her affair could have been put into improving our marriage instead. But she chose deception, and that choice revealed her true priorities. Today, when I install dashcams for customers, I always make sure to explain all the features, including the ones that might seem invasive. Not because I want to encourage surveillance, but because knowledge is power, and people deserve to know what tools are available to protect themselves. I've had several customers thank me later for helping them discover important information about their vehicles or their family members' activities. The irony isn't lost on me that the same technology that destroyed my first marriage is now helping to strengthen my second relationship. The difference is context and consent. Lisa knows about all the tracking capabilities and chooses to share that information freely. Miranda knew about some capabilities but didn't know I could access everything remotely, a detail that proved crucial in uncovering her deception. Looking back, I realized that technology didn't betray Miranda, she betrayed herself. The GPS coordinates, timestamps, and recorded evidence simply made visible what was already happening. The real betrayal occurred every time she chose to lie, every time she chose Jason over me, every time she chose to live a double life instead of being honest about her feelings. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.